Hello everyone, this is Medical Gateway, and today we're going to start a new chapter, which is chapter number 33 of Guyton, red blood cells, anemia and polycythemia. Okay, so in the first part of this chapter, we're going to discuss basically the components of blood. So blood is basically blood cells and plasma. So 45% of blood is blood cells, whereas 55% of blood is plasma. So blood cells include three types of blood cells. One is red blood cells, which are known as RBCs. Then we have white blood cells, known as WBCs. And then we have platelets. So 45% of blood is blood cells. And there are three types of blood cells: RBCs, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Then we have plasma. So 90% of plasma is liquid, which is basically water, and 10% of the plasma is solids. So the 90% of the plasma is basically liquid, which is water, and then 10% which are solids. These are important. These includes basically the most important among them is proteins. Then plasma has nutrients and different gases and ions and waste products. Okay, so blood is carrying all of these things. Blood is carrying the blood cells. Blood is carrying a lot of water in it. Then blood is carrying a lot of proteins and nutrients and gases and ions and waste products. So if we go into the detail, the most important thing in the plasma are the plasma proteins. So in the proteins, we have coagulation factors, which are basically proteins. They play their role in coagulating the blood. Then we have antibody proteins. Antibodies play their role in immunity. These both things will be discussed in detail in their respective chapters. Then we have the famous albumin, the plasma protein, and then we have fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is also involved in blood clotting. Okay. So now there's one interesting thing, that is serum. What exactly is serum? Serum is basically plasma, but plasma without fibrinogen. So serum is basically plasma without fibrinogen. Or serum is basically blood without blood cells and fibrinogen. So what is plasma? Plasma is blood other than the blood cells. So what is plasma? Plasma is blood other than the blood cells. So if we just redefine serum, so serum is basically blood other than blood cells and fibrinogen. Okay, so if we remove blood cells and fibrinogen from the blood, what is left behind is known as serum. Or if we remove fibrinogen from plasma, what is left behind is serum. So what is its significance? Okay, now whenever the blood clots, okay, you have an injury and the blood clots. So whenever the blood clots, the blood clot involves the blood cells, and along with the blood cells, fibrinogen is also trapped in the blood clot or used in the blood clot. So fibrinogen, whenever the blood clots, the blood cells are coagulated there, and the fibrinogen is also involved in the blood clot. So the blood, that blood other than the blood clot, will be the serum. Okay, so this is serum. Serum is plasma without fibrinogen. Okay, so now these were the components of the blood. Now if we discuss what are the functions of the blood, so the function of the blood can be discussed by discussing the function of each of its component. For instance, what's the function of red blood cells? Red blood cells have hemoglobin in it. The hemoglobin is the main protein which will carry oxygen from the lungs to all the tissues. Then we have WBCs, white blood cells. White blood cells have their role in the immunity. White blood cells protect our body from the foreign invaders. Then we have platelets. Platelets, as discussed before, are basically involved in preventing in clotting of the blood. And then we have proteins. There are different types of proteins, as discussed before. Coagulation proteins involved in coagulation. Antibody proteins have their function, the immunity. Then we have albumin. Then we have fibrinogen, which is involved in the clotting. Then there are nutrients. So blood also supplies nutrients to all the organs. Then we have gases. So blood supplies oxygen to the tissues and will remove carbon dioxide from the tissues. Then ions are present in the blood. So blood is involved in ionic balance of the body. And then there are waste products in the blood. So blood is involved in removal of the waste products. So these all are the functions of the blood. So let's discuss them. So first is the nutritive functions. Then we have respiratory function. The respiratory function is related to the gases, the oxygen. Whenever we breathe, we inhale oxygen in. That oxygen is carried to all the body cells by blood. Then blood has excretory functions. The waste products of all the cells and the tissues are carried away by blood, and they are carried to the kidney, and the kidney excretes them out. Then the blood has transport functions regarding the hormones and enzymes. The blood transports hormones and enzymes from one part of the body to the other part of the body. Then blood is involved in the regulation of water balance, as plasma is 90% water, and it also has electrolytes in it. So blood is basically involved in the regulation of water balance along with the kidney. Then regulation of acid-base balance in the body. So blood has buffers in it, buffers in the form of proteins, and especially red blood cells have hemoglobin, which is a protein. So these proteins in the blood act as acid-base buffers. So that's how the blood plays its part in regulation of acid-base balance. Then regulation of body temperature. So if the body temperature rises from the normal body temperature, then the blood supply of the skin will be increased to just remove an extra amount of the heat from the body. So the regulation of body temperature is also a function of blood. Then the blood has storage function. A lot of the proteins are stored in the blood, and as the nutrients are being traveling from one part to the other, they also are being stored in the blood. Then the blood has defensive functions, as WBCs, the main defensive cells of our body, the WBCs, are a part of blood. So blood also has defensive function. So this is the start of this chapter, and these are the blood components and functions of blood. See you in next part.